Hello and welcome to Toad Rolls Dice, where we're going to take a look at our final preview for the Horus Heresy 3rd edition of the week. But I've checked, don't worry, there is more coming next week. I'm still pretty sure we're getting close to that all-important Sunday preview. I don't think it's going to be this Sunday, but I do think... it might be. But we'll talk about that at the end, but I think that this is going to be announced for pre-order before the end of this month. I haven't heard anything, I don't know anything, but I just get that feeling from all this information that we're getting. But why are we here today? Today, we're here to talk about rules in the Age of Darkness. How vehicles work. It's obviously not just as simple as you put the key in, you turn, and it goes. Maybe you got to pull a choke? We'll find out, I am sure. It was a rare battlefield of the Horus Heresy that didn't shake to the grinding treads of tanks and the crashing mechanical footfalls of knights and titans. Vehicles work differently to infantry in the Horus Heresy, where they have different types of stats and other rules unique to them. For existing players, this will be reassuringly familiar. Other players, let me know if it really is. But there are a few key changes in the new edition that are worth casting our Explorator Augury Web over. That's a reused image, isn't it? Did we not have that one on Wednesday? That's a bit cheeky. Vehicles in the Age of Darkness. Tanks, knights and titans are all subtypes of vehicles and therefore use a different stat line for your foot-slogging troops. Some models that might seem quite vehicle-y, meanwhile, including dreadnoughts, are treated as bigger, more resilient infantry, so they don't get the different stat line. I suppose that makes sense. For example, the most common kind of vehicle, the tank, retains the movement and ballistic skill characteristics, but the other stats are now replaced with armor values that govern front, side and rear arcs. I thought it was always like that. The wounds characteristic is also replaced to the more vehicle appropriate hull points in a system that will be familiar to current players. So our preview here, we have the wonderful Predator, movement 12, ballistic 4, front 13, side 12, rear 10, 5 HP, transport capacity 0. When they are shot at, the attacker must first determine which part of the vehicle they're shooting at, whether it's the front, where the armor is usually strongest, or the sides or the rear. If the attacker hits with their shot, there aren't wound and save rolls to determine damage. Instead, the attacker makes an armor penetration test by rolling a d6 and adding their ranged strength, RS. Failed to match the target's armor value in that area and the shot simply plinks off. If you manage to equal the total, you score a glancing hit, while exceeding the armor value results in a penetrating hit. How different to that is 2.0? Let me know down in the comments. So what's new? Unlike in previous editions, however, glancing hits don't automatically shake off a hull point. Instead, you get to roll on the table to inflict a random tactical status. Impaired sensors for stunned, broken monitors for pinned, and weapons damaged for suppressed. So they are bringing these new... We've only got the 3 of them there. Routed doesn't make any sense for a vehicle, I don't think. But they're bringing the other 3 new tactical, they're not stresses, statuses, to work with vehicles as well. Interesting. So the vehicle damage table... Dice roll 1 to 2 impaired sensors, which is stunned, 3 to 4 broken monitors, which is pinned, and 5 to 6 is weapons damaged, which is suppressed. If a model that already has a specific status would have that status applied to them again by the result of a vehicle damage table, then they instead lose a single hull point, no saving throw of any kind or damage mitigation roll may be taken against this, so they just lose 1 single hull point. So you'd have to roll a 5-6, and then the next time you do it, you roll a 5-6 again. So potentially, depending on how you roll, that's an extra 3, this was glancing hits, wasn't it? So this is an extra 3 glancing hits that they can, at the top end, take before damage is applied. I don't hate it. For vehicles, I don't hate this stuff, but we're probably not going to get the full story, so we'll have to wait and see once the rulebook is out. And unlike infantry, who can test on their fancy new characteristics to remove a status, vehicles must make repair tests in the status sub-phase or be repaired by specialists like Tech Marines. If they get hit with the same penalty again, they then lose a single hull point. Okay, so you would... Tech Marines and other mechanical admech-y stuff can also still repair vehicles, which is good. I wonder how it would work. Would you... because you can repair these statuses, or can you still repair a hull point? I'm interested to see how that all plays out. Penetrating hits simply deal the weapon's damage value straight to the hull points, and a vehicle is destroyed when this total reaches 0. To make sure that tanks aren't blowing up too quickly in this new era of multi-damage weapons, they've also had their hull points bumped up across the board. The Predator, for instance, goes from 3 to 5. Ah, okay, so I was thinking that 5 sounded a bit low. A jump from 3 to 5 is pretty substantial, and I think that's going to show how much of a damage boost this game has had in 3.0. I don't know if damage creep is a good thing. It all depends on how the game plays, 100%. I can't comment to any of what this will actually be like on the tabletop, but I'm always worried when weapons are getting big damage bonuses, which we've talked about in the comments on previous videos. Damage creep seems like a real threat in this 3.0 preview series that they're doing, and I'm not sure everybody's on board with it, but we don't know everything. So this does mean that the old vehicle damage chart is no more, but it lives on in spirit as much to its functionality, such as reducing accuracy and impairing movement has moved to the glancing hits table. Vehicles are now more durable in general and less prone to inopportune critical hits. But those inopportune critical hits were what made the game fun, weren't they? That's quite a cool picture. I do like a Titan and a Knight with their skull. I'm guessing that this is the chaosy thing going on. Oh, is it? Is there blue? Blue normally means Imperial. But the artwork with them having skull faces and mechanical, like, monster faces, I think is always pretty cool. Knights and Titans. These war engines use similar rules, albeit with a few twists. Knights are far more capable at fighting in close combat, and often have gigantic melee weapons, so they also retain weapon skill, strength, initiative, and attacks characteristics. While their greater ability to react to incoming fire means they only have front and rear armor facings. So the Knight Questoris, that's a familiar model. Move 12, weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 4, strength 8. Front armor 13, rear armor 11, initiative 4, 4 attacks, and 10 HP. Hull points. We also have Reaver Titan stats. Titans, on the other hand, operate very differently, and there is an entire chapter on the Liber Questoris book dedicated to them. Rather than having various armor facings like tanks, they have several locations with their own armor values and hull points that can be independently targeted. I love that. So, the movement is on the legs. So you'd have to focus fire on the legs to slow them down. I like this idea. Again, we don't know how it's going to fully work in practice, but without reading too much into it, this is a pretty cool idea. So, a Reaver Titan, the head, 14 primary armor, but 12 exposed armor, 10 HP. The carapace, ballistic skill 3. Do they have weapons in their chests and things? Oh, it'll be the rocket launcher on the top, won't it? Weapon skill or ballistic skill 3, primary armor 15, exposed armor 14, 12 HP. Arms, ballistic skill 3, makes sense. They haven't mentioned anything about weapon skill. I would guess that they're too big. You'll have to let me know how that might work out. But primary armor 14, exposed armor 12, very much like the head, 10 HP, just like the head really. And the legs are movement 15, no ballistic skill, 15 primary armor, 14 exposed armor, so slightly more armored, very much like the carapace, and with 12 HP like the carapace. But you would choose where you are targeting, and I would hope they followed this train of thought through so that if you damage the legs it slows it down, or if you destroy the legs the rest of it might still be working but it can't move, things like that. I think that this is getting me excited for potentials. Let's see how this actually works. Reducing the hull points of a location to 0 doesn't outright destroy the Titan, this sounds positive, but rather cripples that location, causing further attacks to roll against a lower armor value and cause devastating internal damage. Rolling on the Titan critical damage table might result in the loss of an entire weapon, collapsing to the ground, or even mortally wounding the princeps, while a particular stroke of fortune can detonate its reactor in spectacular fashion. We know all about Titans from Kill Lupercal, don't we? I've been enjoying it so far. I'm probably going to talk about it when it's all been released, but it's not terrible. We can't go into all the Titan rules here, but the changes come together to make their deployment a real event for players and an exciting challenge to overcome. Such majestic engines of war. were gradually chipped away as they thunder across the battlefield, fighting on through damage that would crater lesser vehicles before emerging victorious, or slowly, mournfully falling amongst the ruins of their foes. There is something about seeing the promo images of Titans and Warhounds and things on the battlefield. I don't think Saturnine works. I think Saturnine Terminators are far too big, but seeing them against the Mark IIs is really cool. We'll leave you here for now, but there's still a lot more to see, including a new system for flyer combat assignments that make aircraft more engaging and interactive. Good, they don't seem to know what they're doing with aircraft in any of their games, so I'd be very interested to see that side of things. There's actually a whole system for infantry assaults against Titans, in which valiant troops climb all over the enormous war engines and desperately probe for weaknesses while the crew fight them off. I love that. You can even dispatch jump pack equipped Space Marines to attack the head in close combat. This sounds like a narrative event on the tabletop. This is what I think Heresy should be, and all of this sounds amazing. I wish this was a thing in 40k. And it's rules like this, if they're done quite as well and quite as themey as it sounds like, this is the kind of thing that would actually pull me into wanting to do a Heresy army at some point. Because I love these kind of rules. This is just fun. But here we go with my ideas on when this pre-order is going up. Join us again next week as we find out more about the stars of the upcoming box set, the awesome Saturnine Terminators and Dreadnought, and have a first look at the kits that build them. So we're going to get a sprue view. We haven't had a look at sprues for a long time, and they don't actually like to put pictures of the sprues on the website anymore, which I think is criminal. Usually when we get sprue views for boxes and things, that's in the pre-order window. Now there's obviously a lot to show off in the box, Mark IIs, and the, what was it called? The big tarantula, not the tarantula, the big gun turret. So there's quite a bit that they can show off. So I don't think it's going up for pre-order, or it's being announced for pre-order this Sunday. I think this might be announced Sunday the 22nd, and I have a feeling that would put it releasing, they'll go up for pre-order fully on the 28th, of it releasing on the 12th. But I think it's going to be a 4-week pre-order window. I don't know why I think that, but I think that it is going to be a big one. Because this is their biggest release of the year, I think. So that would put it releasing on the 26th of July, which sounds about right. But all of this is just me theorizing with what they're showing and how much they want to seem to be showing off. And we haven't had a proper deep dive into the Libers and all the troop stuff, because surely we're going to get previews on Solar Auxilia, on Hereticus, Imperialis. They may talk about what they'll be doing with a PDF for Custodes as well. I don't know if they will, but there's actually a lot releasing in this. Well, they've said it's all releasing together. So this weekend will be a full-on Heresy 3.0 release. There's so much to preview, which is why they've started this early. I think it's coming end of June for release end of July, is what I think. But that's just my crazy theory. Let me know what you think in the comments below. So next week we've got a look at sprue views and Saturnine Terminators Dreadnoughts. Yeah, we will be having a look at that. I was all starting to get on board and warm and fuzzy for the Saturnine Terminators until I saw just how big they were. So I'm interested in seeing that. The star is just talking about vehicles and harming them, and I'm just going to skip it. So what do we think about all of this stuff, and how does it sound compared to what 2.0 is? Are there big key changes like they say that there is? Obviously they're trying to drive hype. Obviously they have made some big changes in what they've shown off in the previews. I don't know about leaks. I haven't looked into them. I wouldn't get it anyway because I don't know what 2.0 is. But it sounds like from these previews they're saying, oh, this whole new thing, when actually it's just slightly renamed or slightly tweaked or not really a huge deal. Reaver Titans having 4 different areas that you can attack, and crippling one doesn't necessarily destroy it sounds amazing. I love the idea of a jump pack assault attacking the head. All of that sounds great, and you could probably just have a close quarters game of a Reaver Titan against some Marines or something else. You could make a whole thing of just that moment. That would be cool. Knights being slightly more simplified but more like big troops makes sense. I thought this is how Dreadnoughts would be, but I might be wrong. We haven't seen a Dreadnought yet, have we, stat-wise? We might see something for the Saturnine Dreadnought next week. Predator. In all honesty, all of this looks incredibly familiar to how I thought the 2.0 rules were. They may have changed wording and they may have upped values, and obviously hull points has gone up quite a lot, but also I suppose on the flip side, as I'm concerned, having not played the game, but I'm concerned about the damage increase just in general, because it's always a problem that GW have. They don't really know how to balance that stuff. But does increasing hull points, as well as potentially armor values and things, does that give them a better way of differentiating between the Predator, which is a full-blown tank, to the Rhino, which is a troop carrier, probably has lighter armor, less hull points? Might that be something that we'll see here? Is that something that's sort of been the same in 2.0? I'm hoping you guys will let me know. But all of this actually sounds okay. I don't think there's anything too scary in there. There's actually some really fun ideas. But let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.